3, 2, 1. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? It's great to be here. And welcome to Insights and Straight Talk. As you know, I'm your host, Rod Duff. Here with producer Barbie. Before we get into today's conversation, though, I want to take a minute and acknowledge the ecosystem that makes these conversations possible, because none of this happens in a vacuum, if you can imagine, right? To the Mangum City Library, thank you for standing for access, for literacy and civic curiosity in a time when confusion travels faster than the truth, you know? And to Leaf Lab, thank you for providing the education, proving that education and preparation doesn't end at graduation. They each evolve within the real world. And to our partners, Voices at the Table and the Regeneration School Project, thank you for helping us build spaces where people of different ages, backgrounds, and experiences can actually talk to one another without scripts or slogans. Now, today's conversation matters because there's a quiet tension kind of sitting in a lot of people right now. You can feel it. You know, you can feel it in emails. You can hear it in late night conversations, and you see it in people who look successful on paper, but feel trapped in their real life. They did what they were told, right? They checked all the right boxes. They stayed loyal, and yet something just doesn't add up. Today, we're talking about that moment, the one where people start asking themselves, is this really it? Is this what security looks like? And why does freedom feel further away the harder I work? Our guest today is Evan Green, author of Liberation Day, Quit Your Job and Escape the Corporate Trap, a two-time founder and someone who spent 17 years inside enterprise software sales before deciding that the traditional corporate path was no longer aligned with the life he wanted to live. What makes Evan interesting to us is not just that he left, but how he left. You know, that's and more importantly, how he helps other people think clearly, realistically, and responsibly about doing the same. He and I were just talking about this in the green room. This is not a hype conversation, okay? This is not a burn it all down conversation either. No way. And it's definitely not a TikTok version of entrepreneurship. This is a conversation about mindset shifts, practical planning, and the uncomfortable truth that for many people, what they've been calling security may actually be the riskiest position of all. If you ever felt stuck, if you've ever felt successful but unfulfilled, right? If you're quietly wondering what life after corporate could actually look like, well, you know what? This conversation's for you. Evan, let me move this out of the way. I want to welcome you, my friend, to the show. How are you?
Hey, Rod. How you doing? I'm doing.
I am doing very well. It's been it's a cold day, but it's been a beautiful day outside, and been really looking forward to this conversation because well, there's already 75 people on. Hey, everybody, subscribe and sit down, chill out, and Let's have this conversation. What about you, Evan? How did we get here together today? How did that all, give me some background, kind of that journey we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rod, as you mentioned, I spent 17 years in my previous career in enterprise software sales. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I ended up there kind of accidentally. And I feel like a lot of people, if they think about, it's one thing I always ask people when they talk about what they're doing. Well, where did you start? How did you end up here? And it's really interesting because it was, this thing happened and then that thing happened and then something else happened. And next thing you know, I'm doing something I never would have imagined when I was in college or when I was a kid or anything like that I would ever end up selling, technology. This is boring stuff, right? Boring but lucrative, right? But that's
absolutely,
why, that's why I got drawn into it. I'll be honest with you. It's because, I talked to other people like, wow, they're doing really well doing this. And, but the whole time I did it, and this goes to what you were describing before, like something felt off the whole time. It didn't fit who I really was. And I would ask people who are in the same situation to, again, trace back to where it started from for you. With me, I ended up after college, I ended up taking a job in the financial services industry. Didn't really work out, so I decided, I'm going to go to law school, and I got a law degree, and then I realized I didn't want to practice law, so I had to do something that would justify my law degree. So I ended up selling software to law firms. And then next thing you know, I'm selling software to financial firms. The next thing you know, I'm selling technology, high-tech software. So it evolved from one step to the next. And every step of the way, I went further and further from what my original intent and my true self. So that's kind of the path I went down over those years.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon path. I mean, if you look, step back, right? We step back every once in a while in life, and that's kind of how people go. And we talk about this a lot on the show about going into life blind.
Right.
For different things and conversations that we have, we literally do kind of, like you said, you're just kind of one thing led to another. And I know the same story, and it's fascinating. That's why I want to get into this conversation, because the, that mindset shift, because, it's an identity, all these things that we talk about here on the show, just it's there. And people don't know enough to step on, move off, that kind of thing. So give us a little bit of starter fluid here, and as we're getting the questions going here.
Well, I mean, I'll just say this, the societal forces that push people down the path that I did and the path that many other people find themselves on are strong. I mean, the Fortune 500 companies spend over $1 trillion per year on marketing. That's 500 companies. That's $1 trillion of influence they're buying to shape people's minds.
Wow. Seriously?
Look it up. It's over $1 trillion. And that's just 500 companies. That's not all of the companies in the world. That's just the Fortune 500 companies. And they're obviously, their agenda is for people to buy their stuff. And then, you enter this consumer mindset, and then obviously got to get a job, because that's the way they tell you that you should pay for it. And that's how you're going to find your happiness in life. And so people end up down this path, just building one expense after the next, one obligation after the next. They become beholden to the job. And then they wake up one day and like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore, but I can't leave. And that's the corporate trap. That's essentially where I found myself. And, I encourage people, if you feel that way, to come to that realization that that's where I'm at right now, and that's the starting point.
So the key takeaway there is exactly is kind of exactly the broad brush of the show. We talk about the great middle class, right? That's our genre, so to speak. This is our platform, right? And in those conversations, we talk about working from the inside out, a number of different things along that path. But one thing is that, being curious and coupling that with the ability that where we never had the exposure in the past, platforms like this really have given us experts like you easier access to real solid information, to step back moments and going, hey, wait a minute, maybe I can really do this. So the questions are starting to come in. I'm just going to let them kind of simmer a little bit, if you don't mind. Let's talk a little bit about, when you're coaching or working with people, it's the same thing that you're utilizing in the book that you have out now. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Give us a little bit about what are the steps? What are the different, we were talking about this on the show. Let's go back to that conversation back
Sure.
in the green room. Let's start there and what you were talking about, those 6 steps.
Yeah.
How that works. What does that
absolutely.
look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my book, Liberation Day, I outline a 6-step framework for making the shift from corporate to entrepreneurship. And so the first step there is what I call outrage. And outrage, kind of sounds like a strong word because it is. And I distinguish outrage from complaining. So somebody can go to work every day for 30 years, go home, complain to their spouse, nothing changes. Ultimately, the pain of change, of giving up that security of what they know for something that they don't know, even if it's going to be better for them in the long run, that pain is greater, so it keeps them in place. And outrage, on the other hand, is different because with outrage, that comes from taking that step back and really looking at the bigger things, not just going week to week, existing from weekend to weekend, but thinking about, just how remarkable it is that we exist in the planet Earth in the first place. I mean, people stop and don't think about those things, right? I've heard, I've looked this up, what are the odds of us each individually existing? And there's a lot of different numbers that people came up with. And some of them I've seen like a quadrillion to 1. I mean, you think about how just astronomically valuable and lucky we are. We've all hit the jackpot just to be here.
Yeah.
So there's a thought exercise I like to give people. So there's 8 billion people in the world, right? Yep. And it's a quadrillion to 1 odds of you being here, you being you.
Almost 500 of those people are here with us right now.
That's right. That's right. That's amazing.
So I found a perfect spot to plug that in there. So
that's really cool.
I jumped on. Go ahead.
Okay. So how many marbles did you have when you were a kid in your marble collection?
Oh, a lot of them.
100?
Big ones, little ones.
200?
Yeah, right. Easily.
So let's enlarge your collection a little bit. Let's give you a box of 125,000 marbles.
Whoa. Okay.
All right. And let's give everyone else in the world 125,000 marbles. And every single one of them, 125,000 in a box is red, right? Except for one person has one marble that's green. And 124,999. That's one person in the world. One of their. That's how incredible of it. The odds are that we exist, right?
Yeah.
So when you think,
go ahead. I didn't mean to jump on you there. So when you think,
we start thinking like that, right? You start thinking about, you know, how precious life is. You've won life, you know, it starts to, it's, yeah. And then it's like, okay, so that's the scale of the gift that I've been given here. And I'm going to spend that doing something that is a total compromise of who I am and my personal truth in exchange for a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tolerate all this disrespect from people, you know, because we're in the corporate world. You're going to get disrespected at some point. You're going to be told what to do. You're going to have to work with people that you don't like. I mean, you're forced maybe to go to the office if you don't want to, if you want to work somewhere else. All of these things that you're forced to do all these quarterly reports and, you know, all of this stuff. And you're existing week to week, and they take everything they can out of you. And then you see what's happening these days with the layoffs, or by the week, it's tens of thousands of folks getting tossed every single week by these companies to, and not just the ones that are struggling, but the ones that are reporting record earnings, you know, and then they're also laying people off at the same time. So, you know, to do that with that gift that you're given, that green marble, if you will, it starts to build this feeling of outrage. And then that outrage is different because your status quo changes. Once you get to the place of outrage, your status quo is no longer acceptable. It's no longer okay that I'm going to tolerate this compromise.
You mean that you're changing it?
Yes.
Your view of that status quo no longer is acceptable.
It's a polar shift. As soon as that happens, then you're not going to be like that first example where you're tolerating the intolerable, and you're just existing there, but you're complaining about it, but it's not, the pain isn't big enough to do something. So if you don't have that outrage, you know, it's infinitely harder, in my opinion, to make a change, because ultimately you're just going to gravitate towards what you know.
Yeah, and the mind doesn't like change, right? Because it's easy. Doing what you do already is just doing what you do already. The mind is comfortable, it's easy, it's, you know, it flows. It fights against. That's why new things are always, no matter what your mindset is, even the best mindset, there is that moment, that difficulty, because you're doing something new. But on the other side, you know, it's funny, what you're talking about right now. It makes me think of a report that was done. You know the term centurions, right? Just to reinforce what you're talking about. The description of people who have reached 100 years old or older. And they did a report, a study on it, I think back in the 70s, maybe it was, anyway, because they could now study it, because they found like little pockets of them, of people, centurions in areas. And so they started comparing, doing all the data, right? And checking. There was no thing with food. It was all over the place. Atmosphere, location, you know, there was one here in Kansas City, but what they found was that there was a mission. There were like a monks, right? Monks were one of the, right? They were on a mission. People had a purpose. And what you're talking about now, just to reinforce, just to add a little color between the layers, I like to say sometimes, that just to add that in there is, you know, once you have a mission, something and I know I'm just kind of setting you up because you're kind of headed that direction right now. When you have that mission, you people that have that live longer. Their brains are smarter, right? Because the synapses are firing when you're changing and you're going after something new. I just wanted to throw that in there because it's this other additional thing. Besides the things that you're going through right now, through these 6 steps, the things that you do this for, you can live longer. Absolutely. I mean, it even makes you live longer, right? I just thought I'd throw that out there for you, Evan.
No, you know, that's interesting that you bring that up, because that balance and that it's really living your core truth and being in alignment with yourself and who you are. Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. You talk about the centurions, people who live to 100, and a lot of them are in Okinawa, and there's a Japanese concept of ikigai, which you may be familiar with. Are you familiar
I
with
think
that?
I am. Yeah, I think I am. Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me what it is, though. But that sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So there's four things that if you have all four of them, and this is like when you think about a business, right? Or something you're doing. If you have all four of them, you have this balance, this sustainable balance called ikigai, right? And if
Okay.
you're missing one of them, then there's always something missing. So the first criteria is you do something you love, you have a passion for, right? The second thing is you do something you're good at, you have an ability at, and that's on your side. And on the other side, it has to be something that people want. There has to be a market for it. They have to be willing to pay you for it, right? Because otherwise, it's not sustainable either.
Right.
And it's like if you think about your corporate job, I mean, a lot of people might be very good at their job, and obviously, there's usually a demand, and someone's willing to pay them until they lay you off and they don't want to pay you anymore. But the thing that everyone seems to miss in a corporate job is there's no passion, there's no love for what they're doing. They're just doing something just for money, right?
Yeah.
And that is kind of feeds right into the sort of the second stage after you get to this place of outrage. The second step is called inspired preparation. And this is where you really tap into your inspired mind to find not only the business that you should potentially pursue, because that's the biggest first thing that people
I like that.
say is that they don't know which kind of business to start, and so that's the first place that people come to me and say, I'd love to do it. I don't know what kind of business to start.
Yeah.
And then finding the ideas once you've determined what that business is, finding those ideas. And when I talk about inspired thought, just think of it this way: if it's Friday afternoon and you're sitting at your desk and you're fried from the week and you've just gone through another week in corporate and is that going to be the best time for you to find inspired thinking where you're really connecting to the highest plane in your mind? Or is that going to maybe happen when you're out for a walk in nature on the weekend, for example?
Yeah.
And so it's about intentionally creating the conditions in your mind and body to when you're doing that kind of thinking, to give yourself the best chance of success.
So that is so base, fundamental and absolute, and so many people don't think about that. Just slowing down and putting yourself in a space or a place, or however you want to word that, to where it'll open you up. And so what you're saying is take those moments, whatever that vision is for you, that person, and then thinking about what you really want to do in life. That's where you're going with that, right?
Yeah. Or, so it could be what business idea that you want to come up with. That's certainly one aspect. Even if when you come up with that business, it's like the ideas for how you're going to make it happen, or what that would look like.
The whole thing. Gotcha.
I mean, I wrote most of my book walking around my neighborhood, and I was not in front of a screen. I would come up with an idea and I would dictate it into the dictation, and then later on I would go to so I wrote an entire book, with this way. And every time I would have something I couldn't figure out, and this isn't just with the book, but just in general, I will leave my phone on my desk and I will go for a walk outside. In the first 5 minutes, just kind of like a little frustrated. I don't know, then kind of start to see the trees, 5 minutes, and then boom, minute 10 to 20, it comes to me, and just getting away from the distraction of the phone is a huge piece of it.
I hear that so often when in conversations, and it's funny because this is one of those things that's so obvious. I mean, it's so fundamentally critical and obvious at the same time. What's the word? Grounded, right? And they say, getting grounded, literally, go out and walk in nature. I mean, grounding to the extreme, take your shoes off and stand on your grass. That whole concept shouldn't be a concept. It should be the way we function more, because if we all did that more, and and it sounds 60s love kind of feeling to it, but it's just fact, right? It's just it is. Yeah, I know you chuckle because I think of that. I mean, it sounds hippie-ish, but they had something there. I mean, because natives. If you just step back and look at things, it's fascinating how important a lot of things we don't do are to us, how important that ends up tying us up in circles and so forth. I've been just laying this question out here for you for a second. You mind taking a couple of these questions real quick?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So Jeff Lamb here, I like this because it's like, okay, we're getting into the 6. What we'll do is we'll blend back and forth here.
Sure.
Because they'll probably have some of those questions. As a matter of fact, I know they do. I see it right there. But at what exact moment did you know you had to leave corporate? Because there was that, we talked that your journey, and where was the exact moment you said, okay, this is it, that's it. Give me the big takeaway.
All right. Well, the moment. So when I first went into corporate, I got this job. It was with a very, very prestigious company. I was very excited to be there, and
this was in the financial not the technology yet.
Financial technology industry. And
gotcha.
So was very proud of to be there, and I thought this was like, wow, I this is I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder now. Yeah. Yep. And I was doing really well, and I was getting promoted and all this kind of stuff, and so I remember I was on a flight. So I had this this vision that everything was the way it was supposed to be. And I was on a flight one time from San Francisco, where I lived at the time, down to LA. It was a short flight, and it's one of those Southwest flights. You sit next to someone. So I ended up sitting next to this guy, and he was, he was probably 20 years older than me. Very, very well dressed. Just had that look, that he was a very successful person. And started talking to him, and we knew some people in common. And anyway, he asked me, so what do you do? So I said, well, I'm a manager, software, at such and such company. And doing real, it's going really great. And I'm heading down there for business right now. And he's like, oh, okay, that's great. So what are you going to do after working at X company? And I didn't know how
Great
to
question.
Yeah, I did. I mean, that was the stone throw that broke the glass bubble around me. I was so puzzled with his question, because I was like, what are you talking about? This is everything I've been sort of bred to do. Like, this is it, went to, college, got this great job, and I'm climbing up, but what are you going to do after that? So but what the thing is the thing about that question that got me is like, I knew he was right, even though I couldn't confront it at that moment. But that was the beginning of the chain of events that ultimately, that was the beginning of when I knew I had to leave corporate, because it wasn't what it was all cracked up to be. So that was
I just wanted to put these two next to each other, and then we'll get back to the story on your steps.
Sure.
I kind of want to sprinkle this, but these two kind of go together. Amy, I think it is. Looks like Amy Chilson. How you doing, Amy? She's open to work. How do you overcome fear when stability feels so safe?
Yeah,
I know it's that change. Now you just did. You got to add some layer or color into this one, because you did say that it's the is the first or second step of outrage.
Yeah, that first one.
That's
Yeah,
where it
first step,
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you get to the outrage part? The fear is still keeping you from getting to the outrage part, right? I mean, that's kind of the battle going on.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you know, I would say this. You know, look, everybody has fear, right? There's no question.
Sure,
Anybody
absolutely.
who says they don't have fear is lying to you.
Yeah.
There were plenty of times in my journey I had, fear. The difference I see with if you've built that outrage truly, if you've really come to that place and understood what's wrong with what you're doing, and kind of gotten out of the I'm just stuck here, so I'm going to stay here. If you have that outrage, that's what keeps you from turning back when you start to feel that fear. So there were many times in my past where I'd come up with a business idea, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great, this is going to be amazing, and then 2 weeks later, something happened at work. There was some news story, something, the economy, everything's crashing, whatever it is. And then it just put me right back in the same spot I was. So I really feel like the outrage is that fuel that kept me going through the bumps on the way, because they're going to happen. Right. And stability feels safe. Right. But ultimately, if you're going to give up your chance to do what you are truly meant to do, or you're truly, that's true, in true alignment with you, to me, that's more painful than, giving up this safety of the familiar. And so, that really is what it comes down to. There's the pleasure and pain quotient, right? And it's like, if stability and safety and the status quo is less painful to you than making a change, versus me doing nothing is more painful, and giving up everything that I could be and everything I'm supposed to be and everything I was made to be and everything that I am just to stay where I am, then that's more painful. So it's which side of that you're on. And that's where the outrage helps to get over that hurdle.
I just had a thought. As you were going through that. Thank you very much for that, by the way. That was excellent.
Of course.
But it's interesting. So how do I pose this? Let me think about this. In your opening, you talked about $1 trillion is spent by the Fortune 500 companies, right. Just the 500, not even all right. companies. Over $1 trillion is spent. That blew my mind, which is crazy. And then what you back that up, or you explained why you brought that up, and it's because these companies are, in a sense, marketing, brainwashing, however you want, extreme you want to say it. Us all, each and every one of us, 8 billion people on the earth, how to think about, well, their products, of course, but then you made this, and I'm glad I had a chance to come back to it, because I believe that's a big thing. I believe our education system does the same thing. You probably did mention Regeneration School Project, didn't I, in the opening? Voices at the table, I think. But anyway, it doesn't matter. My point being that we're being raised to be part of the cog, and we need a backbone, right? We need a great middle class. We need workers and visionaries, people that do both. But part of that is, I was going to first ask, I wonder why we so easily just let it happen. And in other words, kind of give up our own happiness to jump into the line of Okay, now I'm going to do this step, that step, this step, that step, and thinking that's security, when it's actually just quietly, death by 1,000 cuts. You ever heard that term, or a million
Sure.
cuts or whatever? There is a question in here. In this word salad that I've got going here. I got to dig myself out of it somehow. But
I can help you if you want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Why do you think it's so hard people need to come to you to learn this and how to take these steps to move into living their life? Why do you think that we, as most people, would need somebody like you versus, some personalities will push through? I mean, I'm kind of that kind of personality, but why do you think so many of us don't go this direction that you're talking about? And the first inclination is saying, I'm feeling empty, and are honest with ourselves. Why are so many of us not?
Well,
told you I get a question out of it.
That's good. That's good. I'll just say this, right? The system, when I say the system, society, business, government,
correct,
everything,
yes,
is working. School. Yep, and school is part of it. The system is working exactly as it's designed, and it's designed to enrich and empower the people at the very top of the pyramid. With the rest, everyone else is a cog for the, so you see these, there's a statistic, the CEO to employee pay ratio. So, how many X's versus the average employee, in compensation is the CEO making? In the 1960s and 70s, it was 20-1, maybe 30-1. These days, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 300-1.
That's crazy. That is far too much. I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism and all that. But these kind of points here and other things that people make, as far as when somebody's making 50 times the people that are building the business. Yes, you have all the risk. You put all the risk out there. There's fair arguments but I am starting to really realize what you're saying there makes a lot of sense. Go on with your point.
And these are professional. They didn't build anything. These are professional gun hired CEOs.
True.
Right?
Absolutely. You're right. You're right.
And they're paid sometimes tens of millions of dollars just to show up at these companies. They never built anything. And, but at the end of the day, all the company cares about is the stock price going up at all costs. Yeah. And these CEOs, because so much of their compensation is tied to the stock price, they're going to treat employees like pawns because there's just too much money at stake. When it's 20-1, you're a lot more connected to the employees. When it's 300-1 and your potential income is 9 figures, you're not going to hesitate to sacrifice the pawns on the board because you don't need this division anymore because you want to goose your stock price in the next 6 months so you can hit your big bonus, right?
Right.
So you have shareholders who only care about the increase in the stock price. You have CEOs who are making so much money that everyone else just becomes a commodity, right? And so these companies are getting bigger and bigger. The people at the top of the game, especially since COVID, because there's this K-shaped economy. The people who have assets get richer. The people who are living paycheck to paycheck in dollars or saving dollars are getting poorer because everything costs more. So again, the game is designed this way. And the people who are at the top of this game are very powerful people. And they have a lot of influence. $1 trillion is a lot of influence to enrich their stock prices and whatnot, and to get people to act a certain way. And so you have that into society, and people kind of come up through the education system. Their parents, maybe put it into them, the education system, fit into a box, do certain things. Get out into the world, get a job. That's the thing. And then you have other people, and very few of them, that are entrepreneurs from the beginning. But again, most people come through this pyramid and all of a sudden find themselves as one of the pawns in this game. And they never had a choice. And until they wake up, and that's really what I try to help people do, is wake up to where you're at and really think about if you want to be there.
How do you get them to get to a point where they find the business or the industry or what I know getting in nature, that's obviously a big deal in being able to let your mind go. But are there any exercises that you work with them on?
Yeah, in terms of finding what kind of business to, yeah. So, I mean, I think it starts, and this, I just saw this question about, can it work for any industry?
I was going to bring that back up.
Yeah, to Damien's question. So, I mean, I would say, it can, because I'm not prescribing that anyone should do, a certain type of business. I'm completely agnostic. And the reason is because it has to fit you, right? Yeah. It has to fit you. That's where it all starts. And that's the first thing I do when I work with people is, what do you want? Right. So one guy I worked with was very successful. He got very far up the corporate chain, but he was traveling 3 or even 4 weeks out of every month. And, had 2, early teenage children, was missing all of this precious time, kind of saw, hey, my time with them is limited, right? They're 18, they're going to go to college. And then, and I'm spending 3 out of every 4, or sometimes 4 out of every 4 weeks on the road. So obviously that's a big driver. And so if you are going to be doing a business that requires a lot of travel, it's probably not a very good fit, right? Yeah. And there has to be something you love. If you don't love it, it's again, that ikigai concept. That's I think a very important test to run things through. Because
gotcha. Yeah. Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
On that aspect, it works for you. In other words, it's got to be something you love, because you're going to need that kind of passion or that kind of pull to get to the outrage part, right? I mean, they're connected.
Yeah. No, I mean,
to fuel keep you going.
Exactly. Because you have to take action. Otherwise nothing's going to change. Right. So you get that outrage, It gives you that energy. And then you turn that energy into the inspiration of, like, what is it? So the, of the 3 things that I most commonly help people with, number 1 is, what kind of business do I start? Very common. I know I want out of corporate. I know I want to change in my life. I just have no idea what it works. So people stop because they have no idea. Then the other one is, I don't know how to do it, or I have fear to do it. And those are the 3 most common scenarios. But what to do is a very important one. And so it has to align with who you are, and you have to have a passion for it. And so, an example is somebody I know decided he was going to pursue a franchise of pet grooming. I said, as the dog walks in the background, perfect timing. So this was like a
call
mobile...
him for me. Would you call him for me?
Yeah.
I need these guys groomed.
Yeah, he wants the mobile groomer, right? So they drive those trucks to your house, and they groom the pet outside, and And so I said, why are you going to do this? He said, I don't even have any pets. He's like, well, the numbers look really good. And, I'm like, this is not a good idea. You don't have a passion for pets. So sure enough, he did it anyway, because the numbers look good. And then 6 months later, we were talking about it, and he's like, this is just awful. I've got all these trucks breaking down. The people don't show up. Then I have to go and wash this dog, and I don't really like dogs. You have to find something, because look, there's nothing worse than leaving a job you don't like for a business you don't like, because when you have a job you don't like, you can leave. When you have a business you don't like, you're a lot more stuck. You put money and time into it. So anyhow, I think that's a really, really important thing. Ultimately, whatever you do has to be financially viable. It has to, there has to be and that's one of the later steps, we talk about is business planning and practical planning, all that kind of stuff. But It all starts.
So yeah,
So
that's let's stay on that. What
Yeah.
are some of the things that you're doing? Oh, by the way, before you do that, Jeff,
Yeah.
he asked a question earlier. I think it was the first question, if
Yes.
I'm not right. Read that for me out loud, would you?
Fantastic live show. Really inspiring stuff. The rocket to the moon. Thank you, Jeff.
I think we got some. I think we got some folks changing
Yeah.
directions here, because it's about identity. And here you go. I'm connecting some dots. Wait a second here, because you talk about that. It's your identity. That's part of who you are. I mean, what you do is part of who you are.
Right.
And there's a whole identity shift there, and that's interesting, because that's also a self-reflection. What are you going to want to do that's fun, that you have passion for? That's all tied together, huh?
It is, because if you love something, you're going to do it really well. I mean, if everyone has a hobby or they have
100%.
something, right? And when you put your
Yeah.
time into that, you're amazing at it, right?
Absolutely.
And so why can't you find something that you have a passion for? It may not be, the same exact thing as your hobby, but something you have a passion for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you want to take
This
this
is going
question?
in the yeah, this is going in the same way. Danny here has, how do you identify a business it looks like there's some people thinking here.
Yeah.
A business idea that truly aligns with free. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, do you see the private chat or the chat? There's a reference to a chat there on your right side, I think.
Yes.
Can you put your contact information? I mean, we're not going to end now, but so at the end, I'll copy and paste that over, because if the people, it's easier than having them put, they'll show up a minute after the show ends or a year after it ends and go, damn it, I wish I could, I wish I would have been on. I would have told Evan this or asked him that. But that way they can get in touch with you. And,
Yeah. So just I'll put my email address in the private chat.
Whichever one's best for you,
Okay.
whatever the best ways are. I don't know if you want your book, if you've got a website or email or a couple of different things you want to do. That's up to you.
Okay.
Anyway, while you're doing that, I like this question Danny's got going here for us, which is, how do you identify a business idea that truly aligns with freedom?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. Freedom. He didn't say passion. You notice that. He said freedom. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I think, so let's just take a step back. What is freedom, right? And obviously it's a subjective thing, but to me, it's controlling my who, what, where, when, how, why, those 5 or 6 things, right? The 5 W's and the how, right? So, so who, it's like, I could be around the people I want to be with, right? What I'm doing, what I want to do, where I want to do it. Am I being forced to work in an office, with people I don't like, So if you think about corporate job, like you literally, you sign on the dotted line and all 6 of those are out the window. You give all 6 of the, who, what, where, when, how, and why. They tell you why to do things. They tell you how to do them, where to do them, what to do, who to do them with. You might like those people. Maybe you don't. You're stuck, and so you basically sign away all 6 of those things. And to me, those are the definition of freedom. If you can do what you want, when you want, where you want, with who you want, how you want, that's freedom.
Good point.
Right? So can you find a business idea that allows you to do that, right? And that's really the key is making sure that those criteria are fit in whatever idea that you come up with.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Great way to answer that, because you have to really define the rules by which you're going to go by, right?
Yes.
To get the right answers down the road. You got to define what it is that's going to be moving you, and what does that look like? I use what does that look like,
Right.
Jack here. Did you want to add to that? I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't know if you were going somewhere.
Yeah.
So Jack here, how do you avoid jumping into the wrong business model?
Yeah. So
Research. I mean, obviously research, right?
Yeah. So this is this is an important question. I mean, this is why preparation is very important.
100%. Yep.
So there's the inspired preparation that I was talking about, where it's kind of internal focused and figuring out what you want and making sure that, the ideas you're coming up with do have some basis in the market, right? But ultimately, a couple of steps down the road is the practical planning side. And that's where, if you do so in the inspired side, find your business idea side, come up with and vet some ideas, and you have maybe one or two that you think is really viable. And then you need to do really deep practical planning, business planning, operational planning,
business proposal, right? I mean,
exactly.
I'm assuming you're headed towards the actual business proposal, right?
Yeah,
that's a critical thing, right?
You need to have a business plan, and
business plan. Yeah, thank you.
Business plan.
Yeah,
and this is so when people, and again, this is actually this is step 5 out of the 6 step process, but just to
sorry, I'm listening to you, but I can't hide behind the camera now because I'm afraid to. I'm actually trying to copy and paste some of your notes.
Don't worry. No. Not
so
at all.
I am being a diligent, good host. I am listening very carefully, but I know my eyes aren't over there.
It's totally fine. Totally fine.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I'll just say this, like the business planning process is super, super important. And people think of business plans, they think of going to a bank and you have to give them a business plan if they're going to give you a loan, or if you want an investor, you need a business plan. And you need that, right? But the most important thing, in my opinion,
this is I think I know where you're going. This is going to be good.
It's the process that you go through to create that plan. That's 100%. The most valuable thing, because it forces you to analyze that business model, to analyze your competitors, to analyze where you're going to fit in the market, how you're going to differentiate yourself from everybody else, your pricing strategy, what the numbers are going to look like. And all of those very, very important things. Ultimately, you have to sell yourself that this is a good idea before you can sell anybody else. And so going through that process really forces you to sell the idea to yourself. And that's a great way to figure out if it's the right or the wrong approach for you.
Yeah, and as you're doing that, you're really identifying that business. I mean, you're really going through. Why don't we hit a couple more of those? I mean, you really got to go through that, because one, you got to educate yourself. Why don't we go through each step? Just lay each one out. I've got a number of questions here still to go to, but I want to get through this, because I think there's let's hear them all in a row now, if we can.
Yeah. So then step 3. 3 and 4. So the two, those are sort of the two next ones before we get to business planning. And so there you have mindset, right? Mindset is one of those, and commitment is the other. So let's just start with mindset. And so with mindset, this is where you kind of, you've thought about like an employee for 15 years or 20 years.
Exactly. Yep.
Now you got to start thinking like an entrepreneur. And so an example here, think about when you're in school, or even in corporate, and certainly in corporate, everyone is afraid to make a mistake. Everyone is afraid to be blamed. Right. Job number 1 in corporate is not to get fired, right?
Yeah.
Not to get fired. So if you can deflect blame on somebody else, that is a art in corporate. I've seen it for years and years and years of people that are just an art at corporate maneuvering. It's all about how do they never take blame for anything that they're responsible for.
100%. Yep.
So the manager who didn't do anything in the deal is writing you when you didn't close the deal on time, but taking all the credit when you upsize the deal, right?
Sure.
So that mindset, everyone's afraid to make a mistake. In corporate, mistakes are what teaches you how to get, in entrepreneurship, mistakes are what teach you how to get better. And in school, everyone is penalized for making mistakes. And in the corporate life, everyone's penalized for making mistakes. So everyone's afraid to do anything because they're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to fail. And so getting to, entrepreneurship where you're doing something else and you make a mistake, you learn from it, you course correct, you do something different. That's a hard shift for people to make. That is definitely a challenge for people to go from that fear to embracing those opportunities to fail and learn.
Yeah, that's called what's the old term? Failing forward.
Failing forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that term. The whole, I'm going to call it conspiracy theory because now everybody will know what I'm talking about. The whole conspiracy theory is really blowing my mind. How we are cogs in this, and again, I mean, we need all aspects of society so that the capitalistic system can work, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about exchanging. Nothing can happen until money exchanges hands, and that's how the system works. That's how finance is. But just you're really bringing it all the way back to how we're trained this way. Can you imagine if we all thought? Literally, I mean, entrepreneurs do think that way. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that once they hear it, at least they're familiar with it. But wouldn't it be fascinating to have 80% of the people instead of 3%? I don't know, whatever the real numbers are. I don't know. How many entrepreneurial people are there in the world?
Well, actually U.S. and Canada is about 15% are self-employed or entrepreneurial people.
So 15%.
Mm-hmm.
That's bigger than I thought it would be. That's not bad. But imagine if it was 80%. If that was the mindset, we coming out of school, because you're sticking with your story, right? The school kind of sets us up. Or corporate, you said, same thing. Corporate sets us up to be that cog. And wouldn't it be fascinating? I mean, can you imagine? We're getting into AI now, right? So the world's moving faster and faster, and it's going to. And I believe that there's a coming utopia, because the cost of doing goods and services, the cost of goods and services is going to be coming down so dramatically because of AI and automation and robots and all that. There's this other shift. Even Elon Musk, I've been talking about this for a while. I saw something that Elon Musk even said that same thing just on some interview he was doing. My point being is what we need to do is get all this. We're in this mindset that not only hurts us in the mission that you're helping to resolve, but we have this in all these other aspects. We need to be getting our politicians in line, in other words, actually paying attention and voting on who's the right people for us, right? Instead of just party lines. That's stupid. But it's what we do. It's all these things where we're just kind of, like zombies through life, right? Yeah. And wouldn't it be fascinating to have 80, 90, 100, everybody, no, I'm just kidding. But wouldn't it be fascinating to have that? Would you read Olivia's here, Miss Chandler, what she wrote here out loud, please?
So grateful you're sharing this in real time. Glad you're here, Olivia. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. I love this platform, this thing, because the audience is really smart, and they bring up things that, some stuff, like sometimes I'm afraid to ask a question because I have no idea what they're talking about, but I can see the guest's eyes getting real big. Oh, this is a juicy one. I want to see, because they look, I mean, they're not just reading my information that I put out there on the description and stuff. Apparently, if they're looking for something, or they're just smart people, I don't know, who knows? Jason, what's the biggest mental barrier people struggle with? This is a great question.
Yeah, Jason, that's a great question. I love that question. It is fear, right? In some shape or form, right? And what everyone's fear is is different. But ultimately, I mean, it's fear of failure. It's fear of, financial, financial failure, personal failure, sometimes your fear of your family or your friends laughing at you. Haha, we told you so. We knew you couldn't do that. That was all that kind of stuff. And so those barriers, and this is actually ties into point 4 where I talk about commitment.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I designed it that way.
You designed it.
That's how good of a host I am. I planned that exact sentence.
Exact moment. Yes.
Go on.
It's perfect. So, so commitment is really like, that is not saying you're committing to leave tomorrow, but you're committing that you're doing this. It might be 9 months from now or 15 months from now, however long it takes you to get there. It could be 3 months from now, but you're committing to yourself. You're going down this road, and commitment is a process. It's not a discrete decision. One of those parts of it, I mean, you have to basically say, am I willing to face this discomfort that we talked about, right? So the fear, what is the biggest fear someone has? You got to have to face that.
Yeah.
Are you willing to face that now, right? Because when you actually start to go through this process of commitment, it becomes very real. And one of the key things to overcome, and I call this your people's but, right?
Okay.
Okay. So this is the way this works, right? So I say, I really love doing, let's just say graphic design. I just love designing things, let's just say. And then you say to me, well, that's great. Why don't you you're such a talented designer. Why don't you pursue a career in graphic design? Yeah, but see, you don't understand my situation, right? Okay. Now, whatever comes after that, right, is your justifications for why you're not going to do it. Right. And those justifications get, seeded over the years and fortified. Almost their walls that are getting fortified over the year, because ultimately that's how you end up looking in the mirror each morning and saying, I'm going to keep doing this, even though it's totally out of line with who I am. Because you have those fears and they become justifications for, I need to do this for this.
There's that brain again, right?
Right.
There's that brain again, feeding you excuses so it doesn't have to do something different.
That's right. And in overcoming those fears, whatever they are, first is identifying them, right?
Yeah.
To overcome them, you have to then systematically tear down those fears, because that's what's blocking you, right? So it's identifying them and tearing them down. So that's kind of what the commitment stage does.
I absolutely wait. I wanted to bring this one back. Sorry, Jack.
Yes.
We've got Jack here. Wait. Yeah. So if someone feels stuck but not miserable, okay. Yeah. Jack's on a thing here. Jack's somewhere here. Listen to that. You read it. Go ahead, read it out loud, would you?
Yeah. If someone feels stuck but not miserable, should they still plan an exit? Jack, that's a great question. Look, I just say this. That goes back to.
Oh my God! You know what? We've already gone an hour. Over an hour.
Wow, we really. Wow.
Yeah.
Time.
Wow,
flies.
that went by fast.
It did.
When you're having fun. Go ahead with Jack. I just looked up at the clock. It's an hour and 4 minutes.
Hour and 4 minutes. Yeah.
Almost 5 now.
Well, Jack, I mean, that's a personal choice. It
is.
This is where you're on that. Am I going to just feel stuck? I'm not, not miserable. I don't know what that, depends on what that means. Right.
That is kind of an extreme now that you bring that up, but not miserable.
And I was definitely miserable at times.
That's interesting.
But, I also felt stuck. But yeah, I mean, it just comes to the point, Jack. It is your status quo and the comfort of just sticking it out, doing what you're doing.
Where's the pain point?
Is that less, the pain versus, the risk of the unknown, if you will. And if what you're doing isn't that bad, oh, it's all right. My job's okay. My boss is okay. Everything's okay. Usually people don't do anything yet. Not saying you can't, but it's when that is strongly the other way around. Like I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. That's when people really do things, in my experience. But you can still plan an exit, right? Even if you're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a good idea. It might even add to your thought process, right? Bless you.
Right.
Might even add to your thought process, right?
Absolutely, and that's it. I mean, and this is this is kind of going into part 5 where we start talking about practical planning. It is a good idea, in my opinion, to start doing practical planning. If you can come up with some business ideas, you don't have to act on them yet, right? But
sure, absolutely, it might even be just fun to do.
It might be fun to do. It also could be very handy if you do get laid off, because then you're not caught flat-footed.
Ooh,
right?
Okay. That's a good idea.
Because I mean, the whole, and this is,
hey, you hear that, Jack? That's a good idea. Seriously, I mean, it is. Yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's insurance. I mean, look, let's put it this way: if you're caught flat-footed and you're getting 100% of your income from your job, like a lot of people do, you're completely dependent on this company for your well-being, and all of a sudden they cut you off because they can find a way to increase, a number by 0.1%. And you have not, I mean, then it could take you 6 months. It could take you, I've seen people on LinkedIn, it's been taking 2 years, they don't have a job. I mean, it's just miserable out there. Yeah. So you can take that time when you're secure, and who knows if that's a forever secure or not, but at least you take that time to start planning something. And you can also start business. And I encourage people to do this. If you have a job, that's the best time to start something, right? Certainly get all the planning done. Right. Yeah. There's no reason
you treat it like a side hustle kind of thing, kind of get everything kind of moving along. And you know what? I think a lot of people with that entrepreneurial spirit do it that way. I mean, it's because then, like you said, all that planning gets taken care of, and you start putting stuff away while you still have an income.
Right.
Because you're going to go without an income for a little bit.
Right.
Some sort.
Yeah. I mean, it'll certainly go down. And so, I mean, I did that myself, and both businesses I started, I did that. And so I think it's, I think it's something to think about.
All right. You got to read. Okay. So we've got 2 comments here, and I'm going to oh, by the way, just want to make sure everything's correct there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it came together.
It came together.
I put a big separation between the 2. Damn it.
Well, corporateliberation.com if you want to.
You know what? I'll go back. I'll go and fix that in a second.
All right.
I literally had a big gap there. I don't know why that happened. And I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth now.
All right. That's no problem.
So I want you to read the next 2. Okay. The next 2 comments, starting with this one.
All right. So Dennis.
And then from there, go into your, what do you want to leave? Your 500. I mean, literally the needle hasn't moved at all, except now there's been a couple more that added on, but, what do you want to leave your fans? So these 2 comments first, and then right into that, and I'll go over there and start fixing whatever I did to that.
Yeah, no,
because it's your website is corporate. Go ahead and read your website and read your email.
Sure. So
corporateliberation.com.
corporateliberation.com. And email evan@corporateliberation.com.
Perfect. All right. And that was that mess that I had here. Now read these for you.
All right. So Dennis is feeling inspired to rethink my next move already. Got this rocket ship. Huh? I like the rocket ship.
How about that? Yeah, I know. He likes his emojis there. Hold on. I'm going to bring this one over. I'm just going to put them on separate ones. I got the corporate one there. See it there. And then read this comment.
Danny
made a comment earlier.
Yeah, he did. Great show.
Yeah.
So practical and inspiring. I'm glad to hear that, Danny. Thank you.
Love it. Love it, man. All right. Let me get the other one over there. Why don't you give us, what do you want to leave on the minds of this fan club of yours right here? And as I clean up my mess here, come back, and then I'll put you in the green room as I close it out. We'll hook back up on the other side. Sound good?
Absolutely. Yeah. So guys, I just encourage everybody, take that step back, just think about how special it is that you're alive and you have this one life, and make the most of it, and don't tolerate the intolerable just because that's what you're doing now. It's not your fault that you got to where you are, right? I was there too. And I think that's what is unique about me is it's not like I was one of these perma entrepreneurs that was born that way. I found myself into that same trap myself, and it's not your fault that you got there. But now that hopefully you can start to wake up and start to find your path to doing what you're truly meant to do, and find freedom and find fulfillment, and be excited to wake up every Monday morning instead of, oh, it's a Monday. So yeah.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, that's the thing right there. I mean, that's the biggest thing right there. If you're not on Monday morning, or in some cases, it doesn't matter. You're still on Saturday and Sunday. You're still doing this gig thing.
Absolutely.
If you're not, if your Monday's coming around and you're looking like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Then you're probably that person, aren't you?
That's right. And you know what? It's 2/7 of your life is the weekend, and 5/7 is the weekday. And to sell 5/7 of your life for 2 days. If you start doing that, you will get depressed if you start running the numbers on how many truly free days in your life you have, if that's your math.
Wow. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So if that resonates, and again, but you aren't sure what type of business, how to do it, afraid to do it, happy to be a resource. Just feel free to reach out, and I'm all about liberation and freedom. That's what it's all about.
Love it, man. That just awesome. I told you this was going to be well, here we are, an hour and 15 minutes. I knew this was going to be a higher energy level. I was kind of a little drowsy today, so I was looking forward to this because it's important. I mean, to be able to have your go ahead and give everybody a wave. I'll start to close her on out here.
Right.
I'll see you in the green room.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Keep your hands off those peanuts.
I will.
Okay. Yeah. So great show. I mean, great job done there. A lot of people on here. A lot of good questions. I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing. You see the website here. You see his email. This whole thing that we're doing on this show is, I talk about it being like an ecosystem. It's something that has a vibe and a message. And every time we talk about this periodically, when a guest comes on, it's interesting because you hear something and it's like, why aren't people more open to this entrepreneurial? And I get it. I mean, I say why because until before the show, I was in that trap. I mean, I had my own company, but it was that kind of feeling. It was like something's missing. Is this really what I find safety in? And producer Barbie gave me made a comment to me once that really kind of set that tone or set me thinking about it. She said, Rod, when you did the machinery business, that was for ego. And that's part of what you were talking about, Evan. And because we have this picture of corporate America and what's safe and what we're supposed to be living life like. And hey guys, do you mind? I've got a show over here. Oh, they're busy. Anyway, and and until this show, and I now understand what a true journey is. I'm expecting to be a centurion, which I never ever thought about or even dared to think I could be earlier on. But there's a mission. It's amazing how much different life is when you have this what Evan's talking about today. And as we wrap today's conversation up, I just want to slow down just a little bit, because what we talked about today deserves reflection, right? What we talked about today deserves reflection, not reaction. Okay. Leaving corporate life isn't just a career decision. It's an identity shift, right? We talked about that. It's a responsibility shift. That's the scarier part. And for many people, it's the first time they were actually forced to ask themselves, what do I actually want my life to look like? That's a cool question, by the way, folks. What Evan shared today wasn't about rebellion, right? I mean, it was about agency over time, agency over values, agency over the trade-offs we make often without even realizing we're making those trade-offs, right? I mean, did you catch yourself today thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Okay. How about 5 days trading for 2? And that's something we care deeply about here at Insights and Straight Talk. You all know that, because whether we're talking about careers, education, parenting, or community, this show exists to help people think more clearly about the systems. Hold on, guys. Dogs, hey. Settle down there, poochies. I couldn't even hear myself talk. I don't know if you guys could hear that. But anyway, we're clearly about the systems that they're living inside of, okay? And the options they still have. If today's conversation resonated with you, I want to encourage you to do 3 things, okay? 3 things, right? Listen, hear me out. First, subscribe to this channel, please. Not just for this episode, but because the show has a very specific vibe. We don't rush, obviously. We don't reduce complex ideas into slogans, right? And guess who understand that trend, that they tend to be connected more deeply with their audience. That's a cool vibe right there. Second, watch a few different episodes, even just 10 minutes at a time. Yeah, that's what I was talking to Evan about in there. And man, what a great vibe he did have with the show. You'll start to see the through line of what we're building here. That's that passion, right? It's that mission. And third, share this episode with someone you know who's stuck, burned out, or quietly questioning their next chapter. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone isn't give them advice. It isn't advice. It's exposure to a better question. You'll find the links below to Evan Green's his book, The Liberation Day, and the work he's doing through corporate liberation. As always, you can find more of our work on YouTube and Substack and through the broader Insights and Straight Talk ecosystem. We're building with educators, parents, entrepreneurs, and everyday people who still believe thoughtful conversation matters. For producer Barbie, I'm Rod Duff. Thanks for being part of this conversation. And you know what? We'll see you next time. Why? Because I'm out of here.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. If you're an entrepreneur,